Hello, this is Anthony. Let's walk and talk. So today I'm walking through the neighborhood, getting ready to go to a little store. We're going to walk through a little park here, and what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about discernment and why discernment is so important in one's life. Now, a lot of times people will say they'll tie discernment with someone who's picky or whatnot, but we're going to take discernment from a couple of different perspectives, because I think discernment can, as you begin to love self and you begin to explore self more, you begin to understand that discernment is actually a tool in which it allows you, as long as you, let's just say, view life in the appropriate manner, it allows you to curate better experiences for you in life. What do I mean by that? Well, here's what I mean. And we're going to take a couple of different examples. We're going to use an example of, obviously, romantic relationships. We're also going to use the example of work in this. But as you begin to understand that and see and begin to embody that the universe and things happen for you and not to you, and you begin to step out of the victim role and more into the empowered role and the understanding of how the world works role, discernment becomes a very valuable tool to help you to curate experiences for your greatest growth and good. So we're going to talk about that in terms of the examples I discussed, but the other thing that discernment does is it allows you to take a step back. It begins to allow you to see the cycles that you may find yourself stuck in. And then as you begin to have new experiences, you can begin to see how those cycles play out in those new experiences. And discernment will allow you to break those cycles. It will allow you to, again, as I mentioned, curate a situation where you can create more favorable experiences to enjoy, versus to continue to fall back into the same, cycles. Discernment's also great for, let's start off with job relate from discernment. You see, as you begin to take the journey, you begin to notice things like lack is an illusion. There is no such thing as lack. However, most people, they find themselves stuck in that cycle of lack. They think things like money are a lack, or food is a lack, or friendships. They find lack in all things. And so when it comes to a job, what happens is you're out looking for a job. Your lack projects itself within the job search. So because you have this belief in money as a lack, then that projection creates scenarios where what ends up happening is you end up attracting roles that will pay the bills. And then you go on the interviews and you're successful and you accept the job. But see, when you truly begin to understand discernment, you begin to go into these roles with a different mindset. The mindset's not, I have to have the job, because if I don't have the job, I can't make the money. If I don't have the money, I can't pay the bills. No, the discernment has to come from, I understand finances, I understand how they work, I've mastered my finances, and I recognize that the time on this plane is short, and I want to maximize my enjoyment in this time frame that we have. And maximizing my enjoyment is not taking a job that I'm going to find myself in 3 months later completely miserable and looking for something else. Okay? So what happens in discernment is you go into the job interview, and the company's not just interviewing you, you're actually interviewing the company. You're asking the difficult questions. You're asking the questions of, why should I work here? What value do you bring to the employees? What value would you bring to my life? You start asking the questions that help you to determine whether that role is actually for you, whether you'll be happy in that role, whether it will fulfill you, whether it will challenge you, whether it will bring you enjoyment, versus I just need something to pay bills. And just viewing life just from that aspect creates a scenario now where you are opening yourself up to other experiences that you may not have considered in the past because, again, you were I just got to get the job. I just got to get the job. I just got to make the money. Money's in lack. Money's in lack. You see, there are a lot of things that, when we look at life, there are a lot of things that we use money for. But a lot of times people don't use money, and we've talked about this, for the right things. You see, money is an illusion. It's nothing more. It provides you nothing more than than freedom. Meaning, when you've mastered it, it allows you to make choices for you and not choices for other people. Okay, so that's where one way that discernment can help you when you reach to the point where you start to understand it and are able to strengthen that ability more. And again, for me, discernment is becoming much more strong. But the former version of me had no concept of discernment. It just, whatever he could get, he would chase and chase and chase, and didn't understand that based on where you're at. And based on how you feel about self, you attract different experiences and partners. So from a discernment perspective, let's now talk about romantic relationships. You see, as individuals in the world, humans, we are attracted to beauty, okay? Beauty is important to us. For some reason, beauty is something that we want to experience and be and see and acquire in our life. And that's not just from a relationships, from people, that's from every aspect. Meaning, you don't go to the store and buy clothes that you don't find beautiful on you. You wouldn't get in a relationship with someone that you don't find attractive, that you don't find beautiful. Society tries to dictate to us what beauty looks like in a person. But here's the problem, and this is why discernment is so important. You see, some of the most beautiful things in the world are also some of the most dangerous things in the world. Let's use nature as an example. Some of the most beautiful plants and flowers and snakes and bugs and frogs that look so beautiful are also the most venomous. They can also be the most dangerous. So you see, when you begin to understand how nature works, you see that the more beautiful things in nature can be more hazardous to you. Well, unfortunately, we don't view that same thing in life when acquiring a partner. A lot of times, because of ego and because of society, we try to acquire a partner that fits in a specific image. They look in a specific way, whether that's how we were programmed to view people or whatnot. We don't look at the things that psychology shows us to create successful relationships. We first look for physical attraction and chemistry. Yeah, when you begin to understand psychology around relationships, you start to understand that things like butterflies is not chemistry. Actually, what it is it's your body warning you. It's a warning sign to say, hey, we've been in this situation before. This is unsafe. You start seeing and putting yourself in situations where maybe you date somebody and you get off the date and the date seemed boring because maybe the person had a healthy or a secure attachment and it's something you're not used to. So you find it boring and you toss that person aside and move on to someone more exciting. You see, this is where you don't use discernment in order to help yourself succeed on the journey. Even with people, a lot of times, some of the most attractive people can be the most dangerous people to be involved with. Because if they haven't done the inner work, what happens is it's much like a professional athlete who's been great all their life and told how wonderful they are their whole life. They begin to have this ego of superiority and that they can do no wrong and they don't take accountability and they can have very toxic traits. Now, again, I'm not projecting this onto all attractive people. I'm just saying that this can come with beauty. It can't come with any being, but it can be tied to beauty. But also remember that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So what you find beautiful is also, what can trap you and enslave you if you're not using your discernment. You see, the best relationship psychology will tell you are. Have a couple of traits. One is not chemistry, but compatibility, shared values, friendship, a growth mindset. Those 4 factors are factors that predict the success of a relationship and can predict a success of a long-term relationship. But failure in especially multiple areas of those generally predict that the relationship will not last. Again, this is why using your discernment and being able to sit with yourself and trust and understand and see the patterns and being able to curate your experiences is so vital on the journey. This is why strengthening your ability to discern things is so absolutely important on the journey. You see, what ends up happening when you don't use discernment, or people who ignore their intuition and then ignore discernment, is it's more likely people who don't trust themselves. They don't trust the universe. They meet somebody and they meet certain requirements from a chemistry or physical perspective, but they don't meet the other aspects, and then they don't want to get out of the relationship because they don't have enough belief to that they'll attract another being who is maybe a better version or more healed version. Plus, once you've been in a relationship, sometimes it gets difficult to be alone, because when you're alone, then you have to take the time to look in the mirror and if you really want to heal, start to truly understand the trauma that you carry and your aspect. And if you're someone who wants to grow, really taking responsibility for reasons why the relationship failed, potentially like not setting boundaries or not speaking up for yourself, or even acting in ways that you've done in the past that were toxic, that are no longer applicable to a healthy relationship. And they don't want to face those things, so they stay in the relationship because they're afraid to be alone. But again, when you get to a point where you begin to truly love self, and you begin to truly find that being alone can be a very valuable part of your growth, and you no longer fear whether you're going to meet a partner or not, you trust that the partner that's meant for you will come to you. Until you get to that point, until you are able to strengthen your discernment, essentially you're going to put yourself right back to the same cycles you've done your whole life. You're going to put yourself back in the same relationships over and over again. All out of fear that maybe 1 or 2 things that a person might have that are positive qualities can outweigh the 10 things that you don't care about in them. But what say you? How do you feel about discernment? Do you think it's like a muscle that you have to work and exercise and begin to understand, or do you think that it's that people get to that they start trying to overvalue themselves? I'm curious. As always, if you enjoy this content, please like, share, and subscribe. I am truly grateful. But until I talk to you again, peace, love, light. I hope you have the most amazing day.